And that's all I have to say. Actually, no, it's not. I was born and raised here. My ancestors on the Francophone side go back to 1667, arriving from Rouen, France. And so I have roots that go right to 1667, among some of the first French settlers in La Nouvelle-France. My maternal grandmother was Belgian. She and her parents and her younger brother immigrated to Canada under the Homesteaders Act at the end of the 19th century. She was about 10 years old when they came. And they were actually paid. Their passage was paid to come and populate Western Canada. And they were provided with, I forget how many acres in Manitoba to farm. Well, my maternal great-grandparents were not farmers. They were shopkeepers. And so they didn't take to life in the wild, wild west of Manitoba. And they ended up going back to Belgium. My grandmother, on the other hand, loved it. So Mame stayed and she married a Franco-Manitoban. And out of that union came my mother, Gilberte Garand. And on my father's side, my father was born and raised in Alabama, Birmingham, Alabama. And his ancestors were slaves. And my father, before he came to Canada in the mid-40s, lived in a segregated state where blacks were not allowed to vote, where they were threatened and lynched and castrated. And that's what he grew up with. And when he was recruited by the Canadian Pacific Sleeping Car Company to work as a porter, a sleeping car porter during the major tourist season in the time, people didn't travel by plane, they traveled by train. And people didn't have cars the way we do today, so train was the main travel, or bus. The CPR needed sleeping car porters for 6 months of the year, and they used to go down to the southern states and recruit black men. Most of the black men went back to their homes. Some of them stayed. My father was one of them. He married my mother. You can imagine an interracial marriage in the late 40s. What they went through. But they went through it, and they survived, and they remained strong, and they, I think as you can witness, brought up some really strong children with real backbone and with clear values. And one of the things that I've always fought for is equal access for everybody. And I just want to make the point that when I hear me, Marlene Jennings, personally, I'll be 69 years old on November 10th. Keep that date. Anyone who wants to send me a little happy birthday wish, welcome, okay? When I hear or see that word, I am filled with such pain because I know what my ancestors lived through as slaves. And I know what my black relatives lived through in the United States. And I know what I and my siblings have lived through as black English-speaking Quebecers. So just keep that in mind when any of you who think that there's a debate to be had on this. In my view, there is no debate. The word should not be used, and in our literary works that are renowned, of Mice and Men, To Kill a Mockingbird, no, we don't ban those books. We use them as teaching moments. We use them to explain how these words came into existence and how they were used to dehumanize a whole people for centuries, and that system of slavery continues, has remnants that continue to live and thrive today, and that we continue to have work to do to make our society, Quebec, equitable and inclusive and respectful and knowledgeable about the contributions of everyone. And with that, I will end this portion.